This homily is also available as a Marian News RSS feed at podcastgarden.com, iTunes, Google Play, and the parish website of St. Peter the Apostle in Wichita, Kansas.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus went into the region of Caesarea Philippi, and he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter said in reply, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus said to him in reply, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my heavenly Father. So I say to you, you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of the netherworld shall not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. Whatever you loosed on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Then he strictly ordered his disciples to tell no one that he was the Christ. The Gospel of the Lord. The power of this gospel today is the question is asked to the disciples, the question is asked to his apostles, the question is asked to Peter. Who do you say that I am? Who am I in your view? This question is asked not only to the disciples, but is asked to us. Who do we say that Jesus is? In our view, how do we see Jesus? What is his relationship to us? What kind of influence does this Jesus have upon our own heart and upon our own family? What kind of relationship does this Jesus have, not only on our family, but on our school and our parish and our nation, our world? How do we see Jesus? Who do you say that I am? This great reflection today gives a testimony to our patron, St. Peter the Apostle. Jesus recognizes that flesh and blood has not prepared this Simon Peter for this revelation, but only his Heavenly Father. So Jesus recognizes the work of his Father's hand. He recognizes the power of the Spirit moving in this young man's heart. And he says, so from now on, Simon, you are Simon in a Hebrew is a reed like a wind, it bends in the wind. You are no longer this reed waving in the wind. You are Cephas. You are Petros. You are a rock. Because my Heavenly Father has just chosen you. My Spirit has just moved into your heart to recognize me in your presence. You are now a rock, immovable, unshakable. And upon this rock, upon you, Peter, I'm going to build this assembly. I am going to build a church, not made of stone, not made of mortar or steel. I'm going to build a church made of living stones. I'm going to gather an assembly here. And I'm going to build a church that will prevail. These hearts, these lives, these living stones, it will prevail until the end of time. And I'm going to do that through the power of my presence. I'm going to do this through the power of my spirit. I'm going to do that through the hand of God. Peter, you are rock. And on this rock I am going to build my church. Several years ago, 9-10 years ago, I was pastor in Holy Name in Winfield, Kansas. And we had just undertaken close to $1 million renovation of that church. And likewise, we called the bishop out for the rededication. Nearly $1 million, $970,000. With a lot of blood, sweat, tears, lots of sacrifice. And Bishop Jacobs comes to have this dedication, and he says these words. He says, the church is not made of brick and mortar and stone. It's made of living hearts. So it should not matter to us if a tornado comes by and takes this church out. The church will still remain. I and the finance council and several other people had to be held down from throttling him. Anyway, but he was right. Take away the structure. Mow down the building. Shake it so it crumbles. The church will still be alive. The church will still be one. You are Cephas, you are a rock, and on this rock I will build my church. Now, how am I going to keep this church all together here? I'm going to keep it together because I'm going to give you in a particular way, the authority. I'm going to give you an authority where what you say goes. What you bind is bound, what is loosed is loosed. I'm going to give you the keys of the kingdom. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these keys are the keys to the kingdom. It has every key imaginable to open every door on this plant. It keeps getting heavier. If I were Peter and I have received these keys, John, can you come here for a second, please? And so I'm going to hand these keys on to Linus. Get him back. Anyway, that was close enough. All right. So the power, the authority continues to hand on and on to Linus, Cletus, Clement, Sixtus, Cornelius. I give you the keys of the kingdom, Peter. I give you authority. I give you the ability to open the door and to lock it. I give you what door you open, you open. What door you shut, you shut. I give you authority here. And I give you the power to establish what is true. And so if he gave him the power, he gave him also the gift of that power might remain true. We call that papal infallibility. And so he has the ability, when he speaks to faith, when he speaks to morals, this Peter, this Linus, this Cletus, this John Paul II, this Benedict, this Francis, has no ability, they have no ability to make an erroneous statement regarding faith and morals. Because they have received it from the rock. That power, the authority, those keys. And so when the Holy Father speaks to this faith, when he speaks to these morals, he speaks truth. This is not some sort of cherry picking. This is not some sort of cafeteria where we pick and leave what we want. We take the whole meal deal. What's amazing is that this living body, the church of living stones, has its ability to come together, and we are together by listening to the one who is our rock. Our rock holds true. Our rock holds fast for 2,000 years. And when there has been disagreements and dissent, and when there has been division, that's not of God. It's not of God. Division is not of God. God is about unity. God is about being one. And so today we have this awesome reflection about who do we say that Jesus is? How do we see Jesus affecting our lives and our world? And then we ask ourselves the next question, what kind of relationship do I have with this rock? Am I following the church's teachings in regard to faith and to morals? Now, Pope Francis, he can say all he wants about global warming or whatever. That's not bound on faith and morals. He can talk about this, that, or the other with politics. Fine, let him speak. He even writes down, he says, hey, you can debate me with this. We can have this discussion. This is open to debate. But when if Pope Francis ever speaks with regard to faith and morals, then we listen. He opens it up to other discussions. But we must hold fast to the truth. So when we take a look at this Jesus Christ, when we take a look at our relationship with the rock, it helps us to understand who are we following in this world. Once again, I want to go back to the theme for this year's Stewardship Renewal. Who are we following? Who are we following? It all depends on how we see Jesus and how we see our relationship with the rock. How we see our relationship with the living stones around us. Who are we following? I am convinced that the first thing that we must achieve or attain, I should say, and this is my final point here, and that is we must first of all recognize that all that we have, all that we are, all that we can be is a pure gift from God. That shapes our vision. Our vision of Christ, our vision with the rock, and our vision with the living stones. If we recognize all that we have, all that we are, all that we can be is gift, it gives us a particular worldview on how we relate to God and to our neighbor and all things around us. So today, I guess I encourage us to continue to pray that we might have that correct vision of Christ, that correct vision of the rock, and the correct vision of the living stones. And that, I am convinced, transforms us and our world forever. Aren't you glad that you didn't have that tiny little 5-minute homily from Father Francis? I believe